All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another deck profile, and thank you so much for your time. I appreciate everyone that watches and comments on my videos. I've actually had quite a few nice comments that I keep referring to, so thank you so much, everyone, and I really appreciate your support. The goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers, so we'll see how I can do that. But today, I bring to you one of my I don't even know what to call this this pile of slop. It's one of my greatest achievements in terms of Magic deck building that I've come up with. Miirym is an insane commander. I fell in love with Miirym as soon as he came out. He, she, I'm not sure what gender they, them identify as, but Miirym, is very disgusting. If you're playing Miirym, there's no soft way to go about that you are at least trying a little bit to win. This deck used to be Dragon. It was mono red dragons. Was Karthus at one point. I've tried, I feel like almost every dragon commander that I've been interested in, and Miirym is what I keep coming back to. Dragon, I feel like is all right. I'll just get into it. I feel like Miirym is the strongest dragon commander you can run, and I'm willing to die on that hill. This deck has crushed Ureni, Dragon, Karthus, multiple Dragons. It could just be like piloting. I don't like this deck is very toned down. When we go through the list, you'll notice there's essentially no interaction in this deck. I basically come just to be the arch enemy. So I'm not trying to stop anyone else. I'm just trying to get my game plan rolling. And if I get stopped or someone else wins first, then that's totally fine. But if I don't get stopped, then yeah, it's not gonna be, it's gonna be a good time for me. And you as well, if you're gonna be playing this deck. So yeah, this deck used to be a lot stronger, but it is quite toned down. I don't bring it out very much anymore. It's probably my like least five, like top 5 commanders that I don't play out of all my decks, unfortunately, because it can be, I don't know, it tends to steamroll the table. So yeah, let's get into it. I'll just lay them out in terms of mana curve. But if you're not familiar with Miirym, essentially it's a dragon that is going to make a copy of every other dragon that comes in. But what is different about it is it's not going to have the copies be legendary. So you can play any other dragon in these colors, and essentially you're getting 2 of them while Miirym is out, which is really nice. Having Ward 2 on it, surprisingly, causes a lot of issues for my opponents. But I feel very scared to cast Miirym, so you have to kind of play your play patterns kind of weird. Whereas like if you have all these crazy bombs in your hand, you'd rather play Miirym first and get copies of them. And then if Miirym gets removed, well, you just got to go back to what you're going to do anyways. So this is very much a commander that I will give you a tip. Please, you want to kill this. If I play this and you don't kill it, it's going to start snowballing very fast. I do have some cards as well where I try to make copies of Miirym because then it just starts getting exponentially worse. But we will get there. So starting off, also a huge shout out to Ultra Pro for creating these ultra wide playmats. I can barely actually fit it fully on the screen here. I think I have a normal playmat I can compare with here. So this is just a normal Dragon Shield playmat. Side plug. You can see like how much more space you get. Once you go that wide, it's hard to go back. So maybe we'll do the lands last because there's not much too elaborate there. So we'll just start with creatures, and I do run some Planeswalkers. This deck used to have a lot of interaction, a lot of counter spells, but I just kind of swapped out for more ramp and more Planeswalkers because I've just kind of leaned more into like what I enjoy about Commander, and I enjoy like kind of having these mini boss fights with the Planeswalkers, and if you draw them later on while you have your dragons out, they're actually quite hard to get to, so a lot of times you can get up near the ultimates. But each of these do multiple things, so I like to categorize all my cards into a role, and you'll see a lot of the cards in this deck do multiple different roles. So like Sarkhan Unbroken, he'll draw me a card and add mana, so he's a little bit of mana ramp and card draw, but he can also put a dragon onto the field if I need more like flying defense, or if I need to trigger other cards in the deck. So he fits into like multiple categories. Same with Kiora, Behemoth Reckoner, where she'll draw me a card every time something power 4 or greater hits my field, which is fairly common. So that will draw me a ton of cards. It can also untap a permanent, and it can do this 7 times throughout 7 turns, essentially. So it's a little bit of ramp as well if you target your lands, but it's also a form of pseudo-vigilance later on. And then Sarkhan Fireblood is either card draw or ramp. And then if I manage to get up near that ultimate, I can create 4 dragons, which is not too shabby. It gets really gross if I have other things out that trigger when a dragon enters. So let's start our 3s here. Let's go with like our 5 up here. So on to like the meat of the deck, the dragons. All of these are pretty high mana value. I have like a handful of creatures that aren't dragons, but everything else in this deck is to like support the dragons or just get me into dragons or draw me cards, because you'll see with all of my decks, I love the dopamine rush of drawing cards, so I try to get that going as much as I can. I'm an addict, what can I say? So, starting with the smaller creatures here, let's reorganize these. We've just got Bird of Paradise, just classic, turn 1, and it can help stop flying blockers later on. Magda is in here because there's a small treasure package in the deck. So if I can happen to get to 5 treasures, I can get like any dragon I want. And you'll notice tutoring is a big thing I like to do as well. Coming from Yu-Gi-Oh! Every card essentially searches, so why not? Early on, it's also a little bit of ramp if I can get through and start tapping for some treasures. If you can get to like Goldspan Dragon as well, it just gets even nicer. The next big upgrade I want to get for the deck is, what is it, Ancient Copper Dragon, but I think that's like $100 or something, right? So, and I'm in Canada, so it's even more than that. Humble Defector is kind of like some de-aggro. What I mean by that is, like, as soon as people know I'm playing dragons, I'm going to be targeted right away. So Humble Defector kind of can help me make a friend with someone, or I'll just make a deal and be like, hey, I'll give you cards if you give it back to me, and just start drawing into my ramp. A Dragonologist here gives my stuff hexproof, so it's kind of in the protection category, but it can also get me to another dragon as well. So it does give net neutral on card advantage, I guess, so it's not the worst. Teamer Battlecrier is actually kind of crazy. If you get like 2 or 3 dragons out there, like Miirym himself, you're already paying 2 less for everything, which can actually create so much chaos. It's awesome. Now onto the actual oh no, we got one more non-dragon. I mean, it's essentially Dragon Spark Double is essentially just an extra Miirym. Because what happens is if you have Miirym out, you'll have Spark Double enter as a copy of it, but it's not legendary, and Miirym will see that and make another copy of itself. So essentially you'll get 3 Miiryms with a Spark Double out there, so it's really cool. And who doesn't want 3 extra copies of all these dragons, right? So onto the actual dragons here. The lowest cost, I think, is 4. Yeah. Vengeful Ancestor. Honestly, I play in bigger pods. Like, all of us are like at least 5 players, so this is nice to basically kind of shift some of the aggression around. A lot of people in my pod will like hit other players and then kind of get into these little side wars. So again, there's no interaction really in this deck, but I do try to like prevent combat damage or try to get like damage elsewhere before, you know, I start getting ganged up on. Thundermane Dragon is okay. I like being able to see what I'm drawing into, but like casting from the top's cool. Like I love Bolas's Citadel, but I find I'm just not playing enough crazy stuff to really, I don't know, justify him. So I don't know. I might cut him, but he's okay for now. I seem to draw him all the time. He's like my soul card or something. He's in every hand, I feel like. Itsushi, the Blazing Sky. He's in here honestly just because I've got a nice artwork copy of him. But when he dies, you can also impulse draw 2 or create 3 treasures. Kind of plays into that treasure theme so far with Magda. Oh, these are all out of order, so I guess we are just gonna go at it. Ganex Astral Hunters here. When him or another dragon enters, I create a treasure. Kind of see a pattern going on here. But he's for every dragon. So, again, you got 3 Miiryms out there. You play 3 Ganaxes. You better know how to stack those triggers because it's going to get very complex very quick. Especially if you've got, say... Actually, I'll save it till we get to some other cards, and you'll start seeing what I mean here. Scourge of Valkis, he's one of the win conditions in the deck. When him or another dragon hits the battlefield, he deals damage equal to a creature or a player equal to the number of dragons they control. Usually I'm targeting players. Player removal is the strongest removal, so might as well go after that life total. And again, you add him and a Ganex out there with 3 Miiryms, and now you've got, you've got a lot of damage triggers, a lot of treasure triggers, which might trigger other things, and yeah, it's amazing. Wrathful Red Dragon, he's really funny because he can deflect damage dealt to my dragon. Not deflect, but if damage is dealt to it, I can deal that much damage to other things. So with other cards in here like Blasphemous Act or Chain Reaction, you can essentially kill the table if you've got enough toughness out there. And if you've got like 3 Wrathful Red Dragons, yeah, triple that is good game. So this deck has a lot of ways to actually win outside of combat damage, which is what I really like about it because every win doesn't feel the same. Zirlin of the Claw. This guy is old as fuck, but you can pick 3 and basically search for a dragon and put it into play. But at the end of the turn, you basically exile it. But if you've got Miirym out there, it doesn't matter because you can just basically pay 3 mana to get the dragon and then any copy of it permanently. So he's amazing. Again, I love tutoring, so as soon as I found out about him, I had to get one. Imrith Desert Doom. He's mostly in here as well just because I've got a nice artwork of him. But having Ward 4 while being untapped is actually kind of nice if I need blockers. He can also draw me cards as well, and if I happen to have no cards in hand, he'll draw me 3. So yeah, that's not too bad. Another win condition in the deck, Dragonhawk. Dragonhawk is filthy. He's a bad bird. Whenever he enters or attacks, you exile cards from the top equal to your power 4 or greatest creatures. And then on the end step, for each one that you still have in exile, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. So if you've got like 3 Miiryms out there and you play Dragonhawk and you get 3 more Dragonhawks and you've got 4 Dragonhawk triggers to exile cards from the top, that's a lot of damage. And that's just on entry. So if you can give him haste and do it again, yeah, yeah, it's over. So another really sick card, Bonehorde Dracosaur. This is such a pushed card. A 5/5 mana, 5/5 for 5 mana, flying first strike. On your upkeep, he exiles 2 cards, and he can either make treasures or dinosaurs, which is just crazy. If you've got 2 or 3 of them, again, starts getting out of hand. I'm just gonna stop saying imagine if you have 2 or 3 of them. Just assume you're gonna have at least 2 of these guys. Goldspan. Goldspan is kind of a centerpiece in the deck, actually, the more I've played it. Just being able to double all my treasures is really nice. So I don't really have more to say about that. One of the newer cards, just because he was my first commander, so I just like, I like running him. I don't have Curiosity in the deck, but Niv-Mizzet Perun, he's fairly hard to cast with triple blue, triple red, but again, he's just one of my pet cards in there. And whenever someone plays an instant or sorcery, you draw a card, and whenever you draw a card, you can ping any target for damage, and I draw a lot of cards, so he can do a lot of work. He's almost like a board wipe for me. Capricious Hellraiser. He's one of my only ways to actually recur out of my graveyard, and it's random, so it's not even guaranteed, but he's mostly in there just because I've got an oil slick version, which is just, I can't just let it sit around. I'm sorry. He's another pet card. Again, this deck is very much tailored to just me having fun, so if you're like, why are you playing that? I've just notoriously had fun with it, so. Stormscale Scion. This is actually another win condition in the deck, it turns out. If you can get 3 other copies of them from a Miirym, and you've got a storm count of like at least 2, and you've got 5 of these guys, that's a pretty big bump. Again, if you've got like Ganax or Scourge of Valkis or like Dragonhawk out there that can attack, that just adds so many bodies to the board. It's almost like a storm deck with the way it goes off. One of the cards I'll spoil is a Mana Geyser, so if you can just get all that red mana, you can really just go off in a turn. Which is, again, why I'll say that this deck is better than an Ur-Dragon or Ureni, just because it's way more explosive. I've played a game once where I think I was down to like 4 life, with just a Miirym on board or 2 Miiryms, and the Ureni deck had like Dragon Tempest. They had so much stuff out there. They're still at 40 life, and I managed to win in that turn just by top decking something that allowed me just to start playing everything out of my hands. So definitely never underestimate this deck. Even if I'm at 1 life, I still have a chance just to do something and make an impact. Scourge of the Throne. This guy is really good. Again, if you have 2 of them, just imagine extra combats. So enough said. It's essentially like double damage. I used to run damage doublers. Damage doublers. Oh man, I'm gonna keep that in. I used to run like damage triplers and all that, but I found it was almost overkill. This guy is like the closest thing to overkill in the deck. Lathalis. I love the secret lair they did. With, you can barely even make it out, but it's essentially just a stick figure. And it's awesome just to annihilate people with just the stick figure Lathalis. But when another non-token dragon enters, it creates a 5/5 dragon. So it's not the best, but you can actually use that fire breathing with enough mana to make an impact in the game. So, and the last 2 we have 8 manas. Advara Hellkite. This guy is a beast. When another dragon you control attacks, you create a 6/6 dragon with flying. A lot of times that actually, I'll take that back. This is the closest thing to overkill that the deck can do. Just because a lot of times when I play it, I've already got a huge board, and then you've got like 3 or 4 of these guys, and then you're just like every attack making 3 dragons, which will trigger Scourge of Valkis, and maybe you've got 2 of those, so like every dragon entering is doing like 20 damage to someone, and you've got like 13 triggers, and you're making treasures. So it is, I like to think, somewhat a little skill intensive. And then the last card, part of a 2-card combo in the deck. I generally, if I could, I would run 2-card combos in every one of my decks, but my play group probably would get sick and they have gotten sick and tired of that. So I'm very selective with it now, but this one is a 2-card combo. with another artifact that I'll mention later, but when this guy enters, you create 2 tokens that are copies of a non-creature permanent. Any non-creature permanent, doesn't even have to be yours. But a lot of times I'll pick something else that enters as a copy of a creature, so you can enter as a copy of this and have it enter, make 2 more token copies of this thing, which will enter as a copy of this and make 2. You can make a loop of just infinite infinite dragons essentially. And then when you want to break the loop, you can just target something else like 2 lands or literally just anything else. So it's very, very nutty. And 8 mana is quite hefty for that, but yeah, it definitely kind of balances it a little bit. But that's all I've got for dragons and creatures. So it's not the most, but you don't want to clog your hand down with just all these crazy creatures and you're just sitting there for 5 turns. So the mana curve looks a little high here, but when we start filling in the support cards, you'll start seeing the curve a bit better here. So we're going to go on to sorceries next. We've got a solid amount of sorceries and literally just 3 instants. So actually here, we'll do the instants first. Safe bet, a fog. Just because a lot of times, like honestly, you can board wipe me, whatever, but if you're going to just swing at me for lethal and I've already got a board, or you tap my stuff down, at least I can fog and fight and come back one more turn. I just find fog leads to really epic moments, or I can like save someone and make a bargain. Harrow is just here to help me color fix, basically. It sacks a land and then you get 2 more out of your deck of any color. So just helps me ramp a little early on. No particular reason. I could probably cut it for something a bit more efficient. And then Sarkhan's Triumph is essentially a tutor for any dragon to my hand, so it's just like an extra copy. And again, I love tutoring, so why would I not play this? And on to sorceries now. So literally the lowest one we have is a 3 mana value. We've just got a Kodama's Reach. I don't believe I'm running Cultivate as well. I probably should. Maybe I can cut Harrow for that. I'm also running Explosive Vegetation just to get 2 more lands, and it gets me up to Miirym like a turn or 2 quicker, which we definitely want to do as fast as possible. One of our few board wipes, Chain Reaction, and it's in there because if we do have a huge board and I just want to kill with burn damage, I can do this with Wrathful Red Dragon and usually deal enough to wipe the board out. Disrupt the Quorum, this one's in here just for another, just a turn of protection and just to help get some aggro off me maybe if I need. It goads everything that isn't my creature, so they all have to attack each other. It's not as good as Taunt from the Ramparts now, but in these colors, it does the job. One of the MVPs in the deck, Mana Geyser, because I play in bigger pods, this is crazy. Honestly, even in like a 3-person game, being able to get like 10 mana for 5 is so nutty. But a lot of times I'll get like 15 to like 28 mana, and basically the world is my oyster at that point. Especially when you've got cards like the next card, Dragon Storm. I mostly got this one because there's very few options for it, and I happen to find a foil one. So, but it's got Storm, and you put a dragon from your deck into play. But it's 9 mana, so it's right up there as my most expensive card mana wise. Up with Blasphemous Act, which will deal 13 damage to each creature. But if you've got 8 creatures out there, at least, it only costs 1 mana, so you can just hit your whole board and then do burn damage to everyone else and kill them after combat. So yeah, it's quite nice. You can either board wipe or use it as a win condition, so I really like that. Flood of Tears, this is one of the board wipes I've chosen because if you bounce everything back, you can put a permanent back out. So you can basically just get your Miirym back out there for free. Or what I like to do is put Dracogenesis out there or like Omniscience in my mono blue deck. And essentially it's like a combo piece or like a starter. So again, I like cards that do multiple things. I like board wipes that will also win me the game, or, you know, board wipes that will give me an advantage. That's where like Harrow feels kind of not good in the deck because I'm not really like fully utilizing it to its most. Another card I really like, Become the Avalanche. It's just like a pet card. I really like the flavor on it. And you draw cards for power 4 greater on your field, so you can draw a lot of cards, and then it also buffs them equal to the cards in your hand. So since I'm drawing so many cards, it's more of a win more, which I don't like to run a lot of these, but it does both things. It's hard to cut because you'd have to basically put in 2 cards to do what it does. And then the last one is probably one of the newer cards. Hit the Mother Load. 7 mana value, but you get to basically discover for 10, and then you get to, if it's less than 10 mana value that you hit, you get to cast it. And if it's like 2 mana value, you get to make 8 treasures, or equal to the difference. They do come in tapped, which kind of sucks, but with Goldspan, you're essentially setting up for a huge turn. Or if you got Magda out, you can just sacrifice them right away to get a different dragon. So it has some potential to combo a little bit, but that one I could like maybe cut for sure. But just adding more treasure cards just feels good in the deck. If I had like Ancient Copper Dragon, I might cut this for that. Cool, so that's just leaves us with artifacts and enchantments, which is quite a lot. I have quite a lot of support for the dragons in the deck. But again, everything like starts to add up. If you get like 2 or 3 of these out together, it really starts making a difference. So starting with the lowest mana value artifacts, Soul Ring. It's essentially in almost all of my decks. Like, it feels bad not running a Soul Ring. The only text I won't run a Soul Ring is, I don't know, like a low mana value commander that has no, even then, like I'd be sitting there like wishing I had a Soul Ring anyway. Like, hot take, I feel like Soul Ring should be banned because it just leads to so many one-sided games, or it just changes the play pattern. In essentially just, you just cross out the game, you're like, well, they drew the Soul Ring, so what can I do? I'll stop rambling about Soul Ring now. Arcane Signet is just in there because 2 mana value and adds whatever color you need. So again, there's a lot of double mana value, triple mana value cards in this deck, so I really need all my colors available to me. I do run one of the Dragon kind orbs. I run the Jade Orb, which gives my stuff 1/1 counter, which I don't really care about, but the hexproof I very much care about. I don't want my stuff getting removed, so kind of helps give me a little peace of mind. Obviously, it's not perfect, but it does make it a little more annoying to get to my board. Cursed Mirror. So this one, if I have Astral Dragon, these two will combo together, because when this enters, you may have it enter as a copy of a creature on the battlefield. So you have it enter as Astral Dragon, which will make 2 more copies entering of this, which they'll both enter as a copy of Astral Dragon and make 2 more, and so forth. But even having this come in as a copy of Miirym I've done, and then just sacrifice it to Legend Rule, and then you just create another copy of Miirym that's not legendary. So you can also just tap it for mana too in response, I believe. No, because I think if it's state-based action, I don't know if you can actually respond to that. But either way, I usually just play it and then just throw it to graveyard and put another Miirym out there. So it's quite nice. Dragonstorm Globe is a newer one. It's just a 3 mana value artifact that gives you a mana of any color, but lets your dragons enter with an additional 1/1 counter. So the extra 1/1 counter doesn't make a huge difference, but again, together it might have an impact over the other dragons, because if I'm playing against the other copies and mine's at least 1 power bigger, then I at least stand a better chance, like against blockers, right? So and against other dragons and stuff, I need as much toughness as I can get. So Dragon's Horde is like an auto include, draws you cards and gives you mana. Not much to say about that. Patchwork Banner is pretty good too. because it gives you a mana of any color, and then it gives a 1/1 bump to your dragons. So it does get a little tedious to track this by putting a 1/1 counter on the creature and then like remembering the 1/1 static buff as well. But it does make a difference, because if you're playing against another dragon deck that has a Jade Orb or Dragonstorm Globe, now you've got at least an advantage over that. So I'm trying to play against the other dragons in the meta. One of the cards that makes Miirym very unique is the Cloudstone Curio, which thankfully it's been reprinted a little bit, so it's a lot cheaper. But essentially, when a non-artifact permanent comes into play, you can return another permanent of that type to your hand. So with Miirym out there, say I've got a Goldspan Dragon, I play a Humble Defector. Humble Defector comes into play, I'm going to bounce Goldspan Dragon to my hand. Now I get to play Goldspan Dragon, make a token, I'll make that token, bounce Humble Defector back to my hand, and then the original Goldspan will enter. And then I may return something else, but then I can go and just keep going and put something back in my hand to keep making another copy of Miirym. So this gives me repeatable copies. The only thing is you just need the mana for it as well. But this is very... I haven't drawn it too much, but when it comes out, you definitely have to start paying attention, because every time you play it, it opens up all these new opportunities for you. You just really have to know the stack. So... Monster Manual is a sick card. If you've got Sneak Attack, it's kind of like this. Basically lets you pay 2 mana to put a creature from your hand onto the battlefield. And if you see how many creatures I have here that are more than 2 mana, it basically gives me net positive mana. So I really like running that. Gathering Stone, more dragon support, gives them 1 cost reduction. And at the beginning of my upkeep, I can essentially survey one or put a dragon into my hand if it's on the top. So it's like a bad Phyrexian Arena, but it gives a little bit of mana advantage with the 1 cost reduction. So yeah, it's all right. It's decent. Our next 2 artifacts are 6 mana value. Chamil, the Inner Sun, makes my spells uncounterable. And then it lets me discover 5 on my end step. So it gives me a little bit of card advantage and then that uncounterability. So it kind of fits both roles, which I like running. And then the newest card in the deck, which I literally just found out about, and I had to get a couple copies of them, but Chronicle of Victory. It's going to give my dragons +2/2 and First Strike and Trample. So this card alone will help my dragons win the mirror match. And even better, it draws me cards when I cast dragons. So it was made for me. I love this card. I haven't got to play it yet, but in theory, it should do the job. And then finally, we've got enchantments. I'm almost done talking. So I run quite a few enchantments, but all of them have very good purposes. I run Curse of Opulence just because I want early... repeatable ramp, and again, it gets the aggro off me. You put this on someone else, you feel really bad because it's like 1 mana value to deal like 20 damage to your opponent. I swear, like you put this on someone and they're in for a not so fun time. But you get so much mana off of this, like you'll get like 5 or 6 gold. I wish it was treasures so that way it would work with all the other treasure synergies, but it's really fun. Try to run it if you can. Elephant Grass. Speaking of another fun card, this is like Ghost Prison on crack, and I've actually won so many games. Like I can't even say how many games I've won because of this. Not because like it's caused the win, but because people just can't attack me. Basically, black creatures can't attack you, and non-black creatures have to pay 2 mana per creature to attack you. So you can play this later on when you've got tons of mana and the cumulative upkeep doesn't really matter much. But even if like someone does start going off early and you're not playing your dragons anytime soon, just sit back for a couple turns, and again, you don't want that aggression on you. Like this deck plays into that politics and it works very well. So if you go like Disrupt Decorum and you've got Elephant Grass ready for the turn after, You know, no one's attacking you for a couple turns, so they've got to attack someone. So they're gonna attack each other. And sometimes they can get vengeful, so it works out well. Another really sick hidden tech card, Bower Passage, or Bower Passage, however you say it. Creatures of flying can't block my creatures. So essentially my flyers are unblockable unless they have reach. Which again, if I've got trample, it'll just go over that anyways. But it just gives me another option to win the game. I've actually won by drawing off of this. Part of that game I mentioned where I was at like 4 life. And I was playing against that Ureni deck. I happened to get into Dragon Tempest and Bower Passage and like a Stormscale Scion, I think. So I went that, so I couldn't block my stuff with my 2 Miiryms. You know, and you just start going from there with everything with haste, you know, good game. Speaking of Dragon Tempest, auto include in a dragon deck, gives haste to stuff, and it deals damage equal to dragons when they enter. So this can be part of the combo piece here. But I feel like it's essential. Like if I'm playing a mirror match and one of the dragon decks has this, it makes a huge difference on the momentum. Okay, so I do run the 3 Dragon Storms that this colors can support. These Dragon Storm cards are very busted. They feel a lot like Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Every time a dragon enters, you get to return them back to your hand, and they each do something when they come in. So the blue one will draw you 2 cards and discard you a card. The green one will get you 2 lands into play, and the red one will let you cascade for 8 mana value or less. And they're just repeatable. So every time you play a dragon, you just get them all back, replay them, do the thing again. Yeah, just so good. I wish they would do this with more creature types because it just gives such a cool advantage to dragons. Final 3 cards in the deck. Garrick's Uprising gives trample and it's card draw, so very good. Almost, I feel like it's an auto include at this point. I realize I put 4 mana values over here, so those should be there. Reflections of Lityara. So this copies all of my dragon spells. So even though they're legendary, and they'll die to legend rule, it still will trigger more things. And for my non-legendary dragons, it just gives me more because Miirym will just copy more of them anyways. So I really like this card and the way it's performed. And the last most busted card in the deck, Draco Genesis. This lets you cast your dragons for free. Doesn't matter if they're in your hand or if it's in command zone or wherever, you just get to do it. So if you go Flood of Tears into this, bounce all your dragons back and just replay them, you can burn your opponents out or just get so much advantage that it's just not even fair. Draco Genesis is cracked, and again, they should make that for every creature type. I feel like it feels a little weird having it for one type and then no other type is supported in that way. So they should make one for like when it enters, you pick a creature type and then you can cast spells of that type without paying. Like that would be such a good support card. I'm sure soon, one day we will. So in terms of lands, I just run, honestly, mostly color fixing. The one thing interesting is Maelstrom of the Spirit Dragon, which you can sacrifice it and go tutor for a dragon, which is kind of clutch. Otherwise, like, it's just like, you know, Temple of the False Gone, you've got like 8 islands, 8 mountains, solid color splits. I do run like Stump Stomp, the MDFC, where you can have a creature you control deal damage to its power to another planeswalker or creature you don't control. That one can actually come in clutch. I've taken on a couple planeswalkers that way. Otherwise, like Rush of Inspiration doesn't even really feel that good. Tranquil Thicket, I like to draw cards. Simic Growth Chambers in there nice because you can bounce like the MDFCs back or something, or you can bounce back like Tranquil Thicket and cycle it. So nothing too fancy. I'm sorry if the different borders hurts your eyes. I've got white borders. I really like the retro foils, and then I just picked up like a first place mountain, but I like to run different variants. If I could, I would run all the same artworks. But yeah, that's the Miirym deck. So thank you for listening through. As you can tell, I'm pretty simple with my editing. I like to just talk in one take and just release it to the world. So if you made it this far, definitely drop me a comment. I will chill out a little bit here and request you subscribe if you've made it all the way through. I'll be doing more deck profiles and try to do some more diverse content if I can here. So thanks again so much for watching, and have an amazing day. Goodbye.